My name is Courtney Colson, a female to male to female detransitioner, and on this channel we try to figure out what the hell is wrong with me. On this episode, so you've decided to detransition, now what? If you are thinking of detransitioning or have already begun that process, you're probably realizing that no one wants to help you, no one wants to deal with you, no one knows what advice to give you, so you're probably feeling incredibly lonely, as I did when I detransitioned in November of last year. I still haven't done an anniversary video to reflect on all the changes over the past year or so. I'll get around to it, I swear. I finally got a proper camera, so that should ideally make things easier to upload and all that. So I'll begin with the medical side of things, because that is the most important thing to prioritize. Is your body's going to go through a lot of changes again, and a lot of doctors, endocrinologists will tell you, you can just stop taking testosterone at any time, it'll be fine. No, it won't. It can be terrible, and I can speak to that. And I will say I'm mostly focusing on detrans women, because obviously I am not a man, so I cannot tell you what to expect on that side of things, but I think some of this applies to both. So you don't have to go back to your original doctor and say you're detransitioning. I would say it's a waste of time, because they probably don't know what they're doing, and they'll change on you. They'll just turn on you. Well, that's what happened in my case, where they just don't want anything to do with you anymore. And probably because they're trying to avoid a lawsuit, won't stop them. But the one advantage of informing your doctor that you are detransitioning is that hopefully at least there is that statistical data that a GP or an endocrinologist can tell anyone doing these sorts of surveys. Yes, we've had this many people drop out, detransition, what have you. So as a woman, I would say go to a women's health clinic. These are people who really know your body and know hormones and all of that really well. And I found some really wonderful doctors at a women's health clinic here in Perth, and they helped me a lot. So when I was detransitioning, I've made some other videos about this, I experienced a false pregnancy. I haven't really heard anyone else talking about it, but then it's pretty embarrassing and weird, so I don't blame them. But yes, if you stop taking testosterone, especially in my case, I was still having to take birth control, because I couldn't take enough testosterone. My body was just not handling it. So you'd think I would stop, but no, it's like a drug addiction. So I was taking both the birth control and testosterone, stopped them both at the same time, and so made my hormones go crazy, and I experienced a false pregnancy. I've heard from other detransitioners that doctors will try to put them back on birth control. So, you've detransitioned and your period's going to be a little bit weird for a while, so here's more drugs, here's more hormones that are going to ruin your system. No. Say no. No more. Just, at least for about a year or so, just let your body reset and work itself out. Your body is this amazing, remarkable thing. And medical science has just come along and nuked it and turned it into this monster, basically. You're neither man nor woman. You're this weird, unnatural thing that could only exist with... You're Frankenstein. You could only exist through the horrors of medical science. And that's what it feels like when you detransition. You just look at yourself and go, I'm a monster. I have disfigured myself. And there is no psychological support that comes easily from, the normal places that should give you psychological support. But physically, biologically, get a lot of tests done. Ultrasound on your pelvis and on your breasts. If you're under the age of, I think, about 40 or 50, your breast tissue is too dense, so you can't do a breast screening in the conventional sense. So ultrasound is the way to go. It's not perfect, but it's better than nothing. You'll want to get blood tests on everything, but especially your hormones, cholesterol, check your heart rate, all of that sort of stuff. Basically, just do a general physical, because we have to be the scientists here. This is such an understudied area of medicine that we are the ones who have to figure this stuff out by ourselves. So, yeah, just find a good doctor who you can be open and comfortable with and talk to them about this, and if they're supportive and understanding, hopefully this should be an easy process, and I'm fortunate that that was the case for me. I found a very good GP. Hormone replacement therapy can also cause autoimmune conditions, and I believe now that all my gut issues are because I was taking testosterone, and I mean, there's very little information on it, but it is known that the gut microbiome produces its own hormones. So if you're adding artificial ones in there, well, you destroy your gut microbiome. And I think that's the case for me. Because I had chronic fatigue the first time around, didn't have any digestive issues. I mean, I've always been sensitive and had IBS and stuff, but I can only eat meat and dairy and eggs now. That is it. And I can only point to testosterone because that's when my gut health really deteriorated. So if you are dealing with any sort of sudden immune issues, gut issues, especially right now with the vaccine, I don't know if I can say that without being demonetized, but if you're noticing you're really struggling with the jab, that is why, possibly. Again, there's no firm science on detransitioning or the effects of exogenous hormones, but I'm going to share my experiences as honestly as I can. As for fertility, again, you could be okay, or maybe you're not. I mean, I haven't tried to conceive, but I'm told that everything is fine, that I should be able to have children, my period has returned to normal. Well, that's another thing you want to keep track of, your cycle. It will be all over the place for the first year, maybe more. But yeah, if you haven't had a period within about 2-3 months, be worried, definitely get that checked out. Then there's puberty blockers, which personally, thankfully, I don't have any experience with. I transitioned when I was 23, I think, so I was fully developed. But if you are taking puberty blockers, I don't envy you. There isn't very much known about what happens when you stop taking them. And, well, TT Exulansic, who you might be aware of, I'll put a link to her channel in the footnotes, but I think she is actually a doctor or has some sort of qualifications, and she does some incredible research on puberty blockers, Lupron, that sort of thing. And it's intense. I mean, it stops your bones developing, your brain developing. So if you're taking puberty blockers, you don't mentally become an adult either. So you've got a real uphill battle, and letting your body just reset and go through the normal puberty again. I haven't seen enough information that I can confidently tell you this is what you should expect, but I think Exulansic, she covers as much as there is out there right now. But I would say if you have never gone through your intended biological puberty, definitely more frequent visits to the doctor, really monitor everything as it's changing. Because, I mean, this stuff also affects your heart and your brain. You're more likely to have a heart attack. You're more likely to have a stroke. They don't tell you this when you transition. They just say, oh, you'll have more of a risk of these things, but, no more than a cisgender man. Bullshit. It's way higher than the risk for a cisgender biological male. So hopefully this isn't permanent, and a lot of us will just be able to recover and live something of a normal life. Which leads me to the topic of surgery, and I will say, it gets better. For everyone, whether you've been through surgery or hormones or puberty blockers or whatever, every detransitioner I've spoken to does generally say, after, a difficult year, 2 years, 3 years, just trying to get their life back, you do reach an equilibrium. And I mean, there are studies on this that whether someone is homeless, has a terminal illness, whatever it is, or if they've won the lotto, or if they've had something amazing happen to them, over time, your happiness just sort of balances out. You're neither completely depressed or overjoyed, you're just, you reach an equilibrium. No matter what state you're in, the human mind is incredibly adaptable and malleable. And so right now, if you are just at the beginning of this journey, it does feel like the end of the world. You are so devastated and alone and ashamed, but I know it's a cliche. It gets better. It gets easier. You aren't going to feel like this for the rest of your life. One day, 10, 20 years from now, it'll just be a distant memory. It'll be a nightmare, but it won't even feel real. It will feel like it happened to someone else. Even if you're looking down at a scarred body, it becomes your new normal. And I know that doesn't sound the most, uplifting, motivating, but you'll survive. You will. So yeah, surgery. This is the hardest area to correct. I have heard some crazy doctors saying, if your kid wants to cut her tits off, it's fine. When she changes her mind, she gets older, she can just have new breasts put in. Again, a bullshit, because that skin is gone now. The breast tissue can sort of come back a little bit. You might get a little bit come back, but not enough to be breasts. You'll never be able to breastfeed. You won't have the same sensation there ever again. You'll always have scars there. You can have breast augmentation, but I didn't realize this until I started looking into it. Not that I needed it. I didn't lose my breasts. I didn't have surgery, thank God. I was close, actually. I got very close. I had the appointment with a surgeon who didn't give a shit. I was clearly insane. I was not mentally stable. He went, yeah, we can cut your tits off, no worries. Oh, you think you're a robot? Okay. But yes, you can, if you really want to, get silicone implants, but it's expensive and it is a full-time commitment. You don't just have them put in and that's it for the rest of your life. Every year or two, you have to go in for revisions. You have to get the silicone replaced. You can't just leave them in forever. You have to keep getting them replaced. So I don't know if it's worth it, but maybe if you have the money and the resources, that might be an option. Otherwise, there are a lot of other options that were actually made for women who've had to have the mastectomies for cancer. The false breast, just the silicone ones you kind of just put over your chest, or any kind of bra inserts, that kind of thing. And that's basically the best we can do, sadly. As for bottom surgery, I think that is the most difficult thing to come back from. You're now infertile. You don't produce the hormones that you would have naturally. So you are going to have to be on hormone replacement therapy for the rest of your life to be your biological sex. And I think that is the most tragic thing. And, well, for now, there isn't really any other alternative. You just have to take estrogen forever, which comes with its own issues. You're basically going through menopause early. And hormone replacement therapy for menopausal women does come with its risks. So, yeah, have fun with that. Phalloplasty, well, that thing is barely holding on. So you could probably just snip that thing off yourself. I mean, I don't recommend that. But yeah, getting that surgically removed, easy enough, but you're just left with a hole. You've had a complete vaginectomy, hysterectomy, oophorectomy, I think it's called. So you can urinate. You're probably going to be more susceptible to urinary tract infections. But, at least you don't have a penis when you're trying to be a woman. I know some women who had the clitoral enlargement surgery. I don't know, like they snip a thing at the top and then it releases it further. I don't know if they can undo that one. And I mean, testosterone will enlarge the clitoris anyway. Didn't happen to me, thankfully. But I know some trans men get fake scrotum put in, and yeah, at least you can remove those. But when you make that decision to detransition, that I can imagine must make things a lot harder, because you're looking at male testes, sort of. But removing all those false things down there, it can only make your life better and healthier. You're really taking huge risks having these fake male genitals just stuck on there. They don't function like real penises. They aren't safe, and they don't tell you that in advance. And this is why I'm not a TERF. I'm definitely not a TERF. I am very concerned about the current medical procedures right now, because I think they hurt trans people whether they ever decide to detransition or not. They can take hormones and have autoimmune conditions or have worse psychoses. You can have these surgeries and you can die of infections. It's horrible. And surgeons, doctors, they do not give you sufficient warning. I mean, you know that. You're detransitioning and realizing, oh yeah, my doctor's frickin' lied to me. Trans men don't tend to get cosmetic surgery so much. They don't, change the face or the jawline or whatever. But all those can be undone if you have. There's obviously going to be scars and stuff forever, but yeah, it can be done. Oh, and going back to hormones, yeah, your body will soften, your face will soften. My face did change a lot. I'll put a comparison photo here. I put makeup on to see if I still look like a woman. At that point, I didn't want to detransition. I just felt that, 5 years on, do I really look like a man? Or do I just look like a little weird boy thing? Turns out I just look like a weird little boy thing. And I don't know where to put this in my categories for this video, but laser hair removal. You'll definitely need that if you're one of the many who continue to grow facial hair years down the track. You've stopped taking hormones, nothing's really changed, you're still shaving every day. That's the case for me. I still have to shave my face. I mean, mostly neck beard. It's mostly here, not a lot on the lip. And I've just done my first laser hair removal session. I think it was about $30. It wasn't too bad. Australian currency, that is. And you do it once a month or so. Given that I've only done one session, I can't really tell you much about how effective it is, but I will keep you updated. I generally hear good things, and it's definitely preferable to waxing. Well, if you wax, you have to let it grow out and then go somewhere, and then they'll do it for you, and it's just this ongoing expense forever. Whereas laser ideally means that you do it a few times, then you're fine, and then maybe do some touch-ups, I guess, or revisements every couple of years or so. It doesn't last forever, but it's pretty damn permanent. I have very sensitive skin. I didn't have any redness or anything. Not very painful. So definitely worth investigating. I wanted to buy my own, I think they got IPL, the laser hair removal machine, myself to do at home. Turns out there's not a lot of options, or good options, for the face. If you need to remove hair anywhere else, fine. The face seems to be very particular. A lot of the hair does tend to stop growing. I used to get a lot of nipple hair and hair on the chest, and then the snail trail. It's mostly gone. I think maybe once every 3 or 4 months I do have to epilate them back. But that's about it, really. I think the distribution of hair on my body has gone back to normal. It really depends on your genetics. Some people find that they are just naturally very hairy and they won't go back to the way they were before. I don't have a lot of... I mean, the camera won't really pick it up, but there's not a lot of hair on my arms. I never really did anyway. My family isn't particularly hairy, so just as reference, no one in my family can grow really good facial hair, so I had that going for me. Most men in my family still have all the hair on their head. So yeah, I had all that working in my favor. I didn't. Got a little bit of. I part my hair. I'm looking in the mirror behind here, but I put this hair across instead of parting my hair right there. So if I do, you can see. I'll move the front. It is quite high there, which is not where my hairline used to be. Fixed up my hair now. It is very unruly hair. It kind of does the same thing, but yeah, thankfully, very thick, full hair. Didn't notice too much loss while I was transitioning. So thank God, nothing permanent there. I have been told that for some detrans women, the hair just thins. It's very brittle. It just doesn't grow back the way it used to. You have a receding hairline. It's just not the same ever again. And I know that when you transition, you probably weren't thinking about that. You didn't care. Oh, it'll make me manlier and it'll be great. And now you've woken up and realized, oh, it was all a delusion and I completely fucked up my life. And yeah, so you can go see specialists about your hair, dermatologists for your skin as well. And there are solutions. It's not the worst thing in the world, especially because you are a woman, so you already are producing estrogen, hopefully, or you are taking estrogen, so you aren't going to continue to lose hair like a biological man would. There are ways that you might be able to save the hair you have or help it to grow in stronger and healthier. Otherwise, yeah, there's wigs, there's hair plugs, there's all sorts of things. Now we're up to the bureaucratic changes, so that's changing your name, your gender, all that sort of stuff. If you're under the age of 18, it might not actually be possible for you to change your gender back. I'm told some other Australian detransitioners, they're telling me they're 16, 17 years old, they want to change their gender back and they can't. It's just not possible until you come of age. Changing your name, again, if you are a minor, that could be difficult, but if you've got supportive parents, that should help, hopefully. But for me, it was really difficult. I changed my name back easy. I've changed my name several times now. It's a very simple process, especially in Australia. But changing my gender back proved really difficult. So changing my gender to male was so simple. I didn't even need any sort of confirmation. It was basically just, oh, here's some medical letters saying, yes, this is my patient. He has been living as a man for how many years and taking testosterone. And that's it. That's all they asked for. And not too long ago, I think 2010, they changed the laws. But in WA, you had to have had all the surgeries before they would let you change your gender. And I'm kind of thinking, you know what? Good idea. For me, very little resistance. And yet when I detransitioned, suddenly they said, oh, you need to have a letter of support from a family member. And my mum did write a very nice letter. But it was just so fucked. I'm going, no, I'm changing my gender back. I'm not pretending I'm something I'm not. I am a female. Why are you insisting that I prove it? You know that I changed my gender from female to male, so why can't you just do it back again? And I went to the hearing, and the gender reassignment board, they're actually very nice, and they said basically, look, we aren't happy about this either. We're forced to do this. We have to make you jump through all these hoops. We can't just let you change your gender without the proof, even though it's ridiculous and you are detransitioning. There's no protocol for detransitioners because somehow, all the trans rights activists have convinced doctors and politicians. It never happens. People don't transition and then change their mind. Never. And, I could go on for a while about all the things that trans rights activists have done in terms of us, collateral damage. We are collateral damage. We are people who are dealing with unrelated mental health issues. And we got swept up in this whole trans movement. And here we are, trying to pick up the pieces and recover. So that's why I make videos like this. And once you've legally got the certificates, changed your sex and gender back and all of that, I actually don't have a new birth certificate. I should get one. It's just expensive, unnecessarily expensive. But yes, I have changed my gender back. I've changed my name back. So I have change it with Centrelink and Medicare and all of that. I mean, it takes a long time. It's just a pain in the ass. This portion of detransitioning is just slow and frustrating. It's less upsetting than the other ones. And then we have the final portion of detransitioning, which is probably the hardest one, which is the social detransition. That you have to come out and tell everyone, I was living a lie, I'm sorry I made you do this. And especially for your family, this is going to be pretty hard. Your partner, they have gone through legitimate trauma, and we don't talk about that enough, but the wives, husbands, partners, parents, children of people who have transitioned have all gone through a lot of trauma. And it's not transphobic. Adjusting to such a change is an incredibly difficult thing. You are grieving for a person who doesn't exist anymore, and you watch the person you love disfigure themselves more and more and get lost in this trans ideology. It's horrible. And I don't know if that's the same for people who thrive when they transition. You know, the people who remain trans for the rest of their lives. Do they go through this? Do the people around them go through this? Or was it always, well, you know, he was always a bit effeminate. He was always wearing women's clothes, so this is just a step beyond, you know, that kind of thing. I don't know. And again, I am not transphobic. I just think that we've royally messed up as a society here, and there's a lot of collateral damage. And the collateral damage is what I'm most concerned about. So I think the trans individuals right now, they're getting plenty of love and attention and all that sort of stuff. Us detransitioners, well, as we'll cover in this portion, you're invisible, and you're a nuisance, you are a TERF, you're just going to be excommunicated from the Church of Transgender. Your doctors won't want to deal with you. When I detransitioned, and I was on the way, I unintentionally detransitioned because I was waiting to see a different sex health clinic so they could give me a different kind of testosterone. And by the time they called me and said, you've got an appointment, I said, well, actually I'm detransitioning. What should I expect? What should I do? And on the phone, I can imagine the woman was basically going, I don't want to deal with your kind. It really was that attitude of, I don't want to deal with detransitions. We don't deal with your kind around here. Oh, great, thanks. But yeah, you will have to be incredibly strong and brave, and it is going to be horrible and embarrassing, especially if you're younger. You know, if you transitioned under the age of 18, I think emotionally it is much more daunting, even though you were not to blame. You were a child, and you should have been able to rely on your parents and your doctors to have your best interest at heart. And they didn't. And my advice is to rip the Band-Aid off. I don't think you should slowly detransition and slowly work back the whole social change and tell people individually. No, just get out there on social media and just say, you know, if you've got a private account, depends on how comfortable you are, but yeah, if you've got a private account which is just friends and family, and just say, look, I made a huge mistake, I'm sorry, I'm detransitioning, and change your profile picture and your information and all of that. The most difficult part of socially detransitioning for me was the fact that my family just put me back in the same misogynist box again. And the first time I went out as a woman, I went to my uncle's birthday, it was at a pub, the whole family was there. And the whole night, people just kept telling me, oh, I'm so beautiful, oh, I'm so stunning, oh, I'm so amazing. And I don't know if I really looked that good. I had just stopped taking testosterone, so I was very square and bulky. Shaved short hair, very masculine face, dark shadow, 5 o'clock shadow. So, yeah, I don't think I look particularly great compared to what I am now, much healthier and happier, but yeah, that is all they said to me. The last time I saw my relatives, they actually had conversations with me and talked to me like a human being. The moment I detransition, I'm an object. I'm an object again. And well, I know my grandfather is losing the plot. He's not all there anymore. But when I was a man, he didn't just talk about, oh, my beautiful granddaughter, oh, I'm so beautiful, you're so beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. That's all I hear over and over and over again. And when I was a man, he didn't say that. We actually talked about other things. So if you're detransitioning from female to male to female, oh, yeah, welcome back to all the misogyny and the dick pics and all of that. And that definitely makes you question your choice to detransition. You just go, I transitioned to get away from this shit, and now it's just back, full force. Nothing's changed. And all I can really say is, well, I hope that you, like me, get to a point where you've detransitioned and you feel like, I am too old for this shit. I don't care. I am just gonna, it's water off a duck's back. You just don't care about the criticism anymore. And that's really all you can do, is just get stronger and get more resilient and not listen to criticisms about how a woman should look and act and feel. And, you know, there's a sisterhood out there. There are gender critical women out there who are very sympathetic and will listen to you. And there is the detrans subreddit. And there aren't very many other places to be gender critical, because Tumblr, Instagram, Reddit, all the usual social media platforms, I don't know about Discord, but all those places really monitor our speech. And honestly, even if a detransitioner says some turfy things, if they're angry and they're in pain, let them. They need to vent. This is the only kind of psychological support we have, is social media. Because if you go to an actual therapist, well, first of all, none of them are really trained to deal with detransition or even heard of detransitioners. And really, it's just other detransitioners who are going to be there for you, who can listen, who can sympathize and understand, and even hopefully give you some kind of advice, as I am doing here. So I think that about covers every aspect of detransitioning. But if you have any more questions, I have no life and will probably respond to your comments almost immediately. I can't help myself. I see a notification, I'm gonna reply to it. But this is such a new and novel area, so there's probably aspects of detransitioning I haven't experienced or just don't get discussed very often. It's like the false pregnancy. That's why I made a couple of videos about that, and I've mentioned it in other videos, is surely there are other women who, after having screwed around with their hormones, they've experienced something similar. So don't keep your problems to yourself. I think detransitioners, we need to be more open about these problems. We shouldn't be silenced. We need to fight for our space. And we need support. But until next time, see you, Space Cowboy.